Hello, brothers and sisters of SEIU 2015. It is a great week this week for home care workers here in California and across the nation. A historic, a monumental, a huge announcement from our president, Joe Biden, earlier this week when he unveiled the American Jobs Plan. This plan puts front and center caregivers as a huge part of this plan. Home care workers are going to be included with a over $400 billion investment in home and community-based care. This would be a huge boost, not only to our caregivers, but also to the seniors, to people living with disabilities who depend on those caregivers, who have depended on those caregivers throughout this pandemic. It also is a huge leap forward in addressing the inequality that has plagued a mostly women of color workforce that provides this care, and also redefines what we mean when we say infrastructure. Infrastructure now doesn't only mean trains, planes, and automobiles. It doesn't only mean buildings, roads. It doesn't only mean pipes, right? It doesn't only mean these things. It also means people. It also means seniors. It also means seniors, people with disability, living with disabilities. It also means home care workers. That's what we're talking about when we say infrastructure, and this is a huge step forward. Over a year ago, or almost a year ago, back in July of 2020, then candidate Joe Biden made his first announcement on what would become the American, now we know it as the American Jobs Plan. But back then, when he was running as candidate, he actually first announced that he wanted to invest in the caregiving economy. He wanted to invest in caregivers. Here's a brief clip.
Today, I'm outlining the third plank of my Build Back Better program, mobilizing a 21st century care and elderly childhood education workforce to deal with the caregiving crisis, and it's a crisis in this country. If we truly want to reward work in this country, we have to ease the financial burden of care that families are carrying. We have to elevate the compensation of those providing the care, the benefits and dignity of caregiving workers and early childhood education.
Of course, he was talking about dignity for caregivers. And then fast forward to just this week to see what he said about caregivers again, about the need to invest in caregivers as a part of his massive American Jobs Plan, because it's good for everyone. It's good for caregivers, it's good for those they take care of, and it's good for creating good union jobs.
Only the American Families Plan changes that with better wages, benefits, and opportunities for millions of people who will be able to get to work in an economy that works for them. You know,
And that was huge. And another powerful quote from our president in that same speech, he said, for too long, caregivers who are disproportionately women, women of color, and immigrants have been unseen, underpaid, and undervalued. And that is being addressed by this proposal, by this plan. And our own fierce, amazing, powerful president of SEIU 2015, Ms. April Barrett, she made this announcement in response to the historic announcement from our president. She said, these caregivers, mostly made up of women of color, need the means to protect our communities, but also the needs to protect themselves. The structure in place within the American Jobs Plan also finally cements the long overdue protections for these essential workforce. Caregivers have the right to raises, stronger benefits, and an opportunity to organize or join a union and collectively bargain. These measures are a major step forward in undoing the unjust racial, gender, and economic influences that have crippled the long-term care industry. I could not have said it better, so I wanted to make sure to share that powerful quote that also puts into perspective the fact that caregivers, and you all know it because you all do this and sacrifice and do the hard work every single day. Caregivers from the cradle of our economy, which was slavery. Caregivers have been placed as a second tier of workers. Caregivers have been pushed in the shadows, have been disregarded and not placed in the same level as other workers. And this is a first step in the right direction to come back from that past, come back from that history, to change and transform that history and create a new path. This is amazing, brothers and sisters. And everyone out there at home, you all should pat yourselves on the back because you got us to where we're at right now. For years, we have been saying that there's a caregiving crisis, that seniors and people living with disabilities have experienced a gap that is growing, a gap of not getting the care that they need. For years, you have also said that workers deserve better, deserve dignity, deserve respect. And you got us to this point. Just in the last year alone, not even the last year, but if we look at the last 6 months, hundreds of SEAU 2015 volunteers made calls, made text messages, called Arizona, called other states, told their family members, told their friends, told their fellow coworkers to elect President Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And you made that happen. That was a huge step. And then over the last couple of months, over 60 of you, 60 home care workers, participated in lobby visits with 18 California members of Congress. And as a result of all that, you educated these members of Congress on why we need to invest in caregivers. 24 members of Congress, 24 members of Congress from California alone, because of your work, signed on to a letter authored by Representative Dingell, urging the Biden administration to support investment in home and community-based services. And over 5,000 of you made calls to Congress. That is just amazing. And that got us to this point. So, brothers and sisters, you have to pat yourselves in the back. And where we're at now is that we're waiting Congress now. The plan has been put into place, but Congress has to write the legislation. The House, the Senate has to pass the legislation before our President Joe Biden can sign it and make it into law. And we know the obstacles that we face because we already started hearing from Republicans that all of a sudden things are too expensive. When it comes to women of color, when it comes to predominantly immigrant workforce, when it comes to a workforce like caregivers, all of a sudden these things are too expensive. All of a sudden the price tag is too much. All of a sudden we have to worry about all these things that we didn't have to worry about when we gave corporate tax breaks. We didn't have to worry about when we gave corporate kickbacks to big corporations. We didn't have to worry about it when we made billionaires under this pandemic. We made billionaires and we made corporations make billions under this pandemic. But all of a sudden it's too expensive. All of a sudden it's too much. So we have to push back against that. We have to make the American Jobs Plan happen and happen with and including home care workers. So brothers and sisters, we're going to need all of you. We're going to make all kinds of noise. We're going to need you to lift and add your voice to the thousands of caregivers across this country who are going to demand that we make this a reality. One way you can do that today from the comfort of your own home is dialing those numbers on the screen and calling Congress today, asking them to pass the American Jobs Act with the $400 billion investment in caregiving, because we need to make home care jobs good union jobs. You can take this action, you can do it. If you already called in the past, it doesn't matter. There's now the American Jobs Plan that we can refer to. There is now a new direction. There's now direction from our president. So everyone, please take this call today. Make this call today. Ask everyone you know to make this call today. Ask everyone to make the call, and you make the call every week. We're going to call and call and call and do the actions we need to do to make this happen, to make this plan a reality. So please pick up the phone and make your call today. We will have more updates. We will have updates on important events, awesome events. We're going to have events in person, some virtual events, rallies, we're going to do whatever it takes to make this a reality, because brothers and sisters, you have done the legwork. Over the years, you have brought us to this point. Now we are at the cusp of something huge, and we need to make sure it happens. So brothers and sisters, I'll look out for you. I'm going to say a little bit in English, in Spanish, now that I talked in English, for the brothers and sisters out there that speak Spanish, and then make the call and make sure everyone makes the call. Hermanos y hermanas del Sindicato SU 2015, estamos viviendo un momento histórico. El presidente Joe Biden ha hecho el anuncio que quiere invertir más de 400 billones de dólares en el programa de cuidado en casa y en las personas que hacen el cuidado en casa, que son todas ustedes. Ahora tenemos la responsabilidad. Ustedes han hecho el trabajo. Por años han abogado, han apoyado, han ido a marchas, han hecho llamadas y estamos en un momento histórico. Estamos a punto de pasar una propuesta de ley que puede ser histórica y cambiar las vidas de muchos trabajadores de cuidado en casa en todo el país entero. Ahora necesitamos que continúe lo que usted ha hecho por muchos años, participando en las movilizaciones, participando en las acciones, también participando en el internet con las juntas en Zoom, juntas virtuales. Y también hoy le pido que si ya ha hecho la llamada, está bien, haga la llamada otra vez. Haga la llamada cada semana hasta que ganemos este plan, hasta que este plan se haga realidad. Por favor, recoja su teléfono, marque este número, pida que todas sus compañeras, sus amigos, sus familiares hagan la llamada, porque necesitamos que el Congreso escuche sus voces, una su voz a las voces de miles de trabajadores de cuidado en casa que están tomando esta acción para que así podamos ganar. Last thing I got to say is, brothers and sisters, si se puede, we can do it. Thank you and have a great rest of your weekend.